This is Jacob Chansley. If you're unfamiliar, he's also known as the QAnon Shaman. He was at the Capitol on January 6th, and he made a mess of everything and ended up in prison for it for a while. What did he? I think he got sentenced like 40-something months, basically 4 years or something, and he just got out. Okay, well, I wanted to watch one of his older interviews on the anniversary of January 6th. So this is 2022, January 6th, 2022, when this interview came out. It's with Channel 5. It's so fascinating to listen to his headspace when he was in prison for Donald Trump. Seriously, in prison for Donald Trump. So anyway, let's give this a listen, see what he has to say for himself. And while we do, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild, too.
This is a free call from
Jacob Chansley.
an incarcerated individual at Alexandria Detention Center. This call is not private. It will be recorded and may be monitored.
Yeah, again, this is an interview with Channel 5. I'm not really a fan of how he put the background music in and stuff. That's kind of a propagandistic thing to do. I guess you just, you got to do this kind of thing for the sake of entertainment value. But, I don't know.
Fucking hey, man. Glad to see you guys. You guys are fucking patriots. Look at this guy. He's got covered in blood. God bless you.
I got shot in the face.
I got shot in the face.
In the face with some kind of plastic bullet.
It's only a matter of time. Just
They know they weren't supposed to be there. It's obvious, right? The dude walked into the chamber, and some guy says to him, I got shot in the face with some kind of rubber bullet or plastic bullet. You know you're not supposed to be there. Everybody in that room that just heard that knows it, right? I mean, I just want to, really drive this point home because Chansley later, thanks to Tucker Carlson, claimed in his defense that he didn't know he wasn't supposed to be there. Like, the police let him in. That complete nonsense. All of it is complete nonsense. But anyway, yeah. I just want to make that point. They knew.
justice is coming. I'm not one to...
Oh, yeah, and this is famously the letter that he wrote to, I don't know, the Senate, the House? I don't know where. I think this is the House chamber. It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming is what he wrote on this letter.
I'm not one to usually take pictures of myself, but in this case, I think I'm making an exception.
Yeah, genius. Good idea. Take pictures of yourself committing a crime. That's a fantastic idea.
Jacob Chansley, the self-proclaimed QAnon shaman, has just been sentenced to 41 months in prison for his role in the January 6th Capitol riots. He was seen entering the Senate chamber with a spear.
To accept this free call, press 1. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
So they're going to give an interview, I guess. That's really interesting that he managed to get a hold of him.
Hey, man, how's it going?
All right, cool. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay, brother. I'm doing okay. Spent the last 20-something hours in a cell, so, but at least I had something to work.
Wow, 20-hour lockdown. That sucks, dude. Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video. I don't know if you guys know how this works, but you have basically, in jail, you have a pod. And the pod is... God, there's a chest in here somewhere. I don't know where, but I don't care enough to try to find it. I'm just going to flip myself with this humongous heckin' thing here. So you have a pod, right? And it's kind of like, you have it varies, but you have 6 cells to a pod, or 8 or 10, or, yeah, it just kind of varies. And so everybody in your pod kind of works together, hangs out together and stuff. In a jail that's really, really, really strict, like some federal prisons, they don't allow you out of your cell, let alone your pod, but your cell for 20 hours out of the day. In more relaxed jails, they open the cell doors and let you wander around your pod. And again, each cell is made up of at most 2 people, except for holding cells. That's a totally different thing. And each pod is made up of, 6 to 10 cells. It varies from jail to jail. So you're looking at 10, 12, 14 people. And usually, for the most part, they get along. By and large, people in the same pod get along with each other. If they don't, it's a nightmare. But if they let you out, you can play poker with each other or blackjack or whatever. Just play cards and chill. In jails that are not like ultra strict, you can do that most of the day. And then they'll let you out in the yard for a while to wander around in the, in the yard, like outside, basically. But it sounds like his place, his whole thing here was 20-hour lockdown. God, that's gotta suck, right? Imagine that. 20 hours in a cell. I mean, he's only got 4 hours to hang out with other people, I guess. What a nightmare, man. I'm just glad that I've never, ended up in jail, because I very easily could have. My brother-in-law from back in the day, no longer brother-in-law, long and long ago, like years and years ago, the dude went to jail for 4 years or something like that, and he didn't even have to. Like, the dude was only in jail because he couldn't, keep it together. He couldn't stop himself from, doing stuff he knew he wasn't supposed to do. Like, he's not supposed to do drugs on probation, right? He's on probation. They take him to jail. He gets completely clean in jail. Completely clean, right? He had no drugs in his system because he's in there for 6 months for violating his probation. 6 months. Dude gets out, goes right back to the drugs, despite the fact that he knows he's going to have probation, drug tests and stuff. So he just kept messing up, over and over again, and ended up, the dude's been on paper for more of his life than he's been off of paper at this point. Anyway, I've been heavily steeped in the criminal world for many, many years. No longer. I've moved on with my life at this point, but yeah, that's generally how it works, if you were wondering.
Work on.
Right. So for those who don't know, where are you at right now?
Oh, I am in Alexandria Detention Center in Alexandria, Virginia. I am sleeping on a 1.5-inch foam mat that is on top of a concrete slab every night, and that's pretty much where I'm sitting all day as well.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That's what happens when you do something like what he did. This is not unexpected. This is exactly what I expect, actually. When you assist in a coup attempt on the U.S. government. Totally. Again, he's out now. He got out May 25th, 2023, I think. Gave some other interviews that we'll probably end up watching eventually. It's just sad and embarrassing, man.
I get 22 hours in my cell and 2 hours outside of my cell.
I thought he said 20-hour lockdown. So he has 22-hour lockdown? Wow, that sucks. I don't know what he had, but either way, it's just terrible. It's a nightmare, dude. You know what, though? Some people don't understand the world outside, truthfully. Some people have been like my old, but like Robert is his name. My ex's brother. He's been on paper longer than he's been off of paper. He doesn't understand the outside world at all. And in my opinion, I believe that the dude was so uncomfortable with the real world that he would commit crimes to go back. Because he couldn't figure it out. And, he was in jail when his mom died. And he was in jail when his grandmother died. It's sad, man. Got to feel for people who just can't pull it together and figure it out, It could have easily been me. Could have just as easily been me in that position. Anyway, let's keep listening.
going outside or working out or anything like that. This place can definitely take its toll on you. It makes me think of the saying in Shawshank Redemption when Red said, in prison a man will do most anything to keep his mind occupied. Yeah, I know how that is.
Right. How would you describe the conditions of the jail that you're in right now?
Well,
Up to this point, they were complaining, like the January 6 people, complaining about the conditions, claiming they were political prisoners and mistreated terribly and blah, blah, blah. Complete nonsense. It's no better or worse than any other jail. If you didn't want to go to jail, in their case, they shouldn't have assisted in a coup attempt, but that's neither here nor there. I don't want to hear any complaining about your cell quality.
Well, the conditions in Alexandria in the detention center are not as bad as they were in, say, the D.C. jail. I've never experienced, real racism and prejudice in my life until
Give me a break.
I went to the D.C. jail. There was a black woman from Nigeria that was their nurse or their doctor that was examining me while I was fasting for 11 days because they weren't feeding me organic. She thought it was...
Wow. Oh, I remember this. Oh, my God. I totally forgot. So if you guys didn't know about this, the Qanon Shaman originally, when he first went to jail, refused to... He went on a hunger strike, like an eating strike or whatever you want to call it, because he only eats organic because he believes that the water is turning the friggin' frogs gay, and normal food uses all kinds of chemicals and adulterants and stuff to control your mind, like chemtrail chemicals and all that. So he only ever eats organic because he believes GMOs are evil and stuff. So he goes on a hunger strike because guess what? You assisted in a coup attempt against the U.S. government and went to federal prison for it. So you don't get to eat organic after that. Your freedom to eat organic went away when you attempted to orchestrate a coup on the U.S. government. But that's neither here nor there. So anyways, he went on an 11-day fast. That's actually really, really impressive. There's a rule of 3. You can live without oxygen for 3 minutes, water for 3 days, food for 3 weeks. That's the general rule. I mean, it's not hard and fast. There are people who, are on each end of the spectrum or whatever, but yeah, so he went 11 days. That is actually really impressive. Dude's got an iron will, obviously.
I was a racist and a white supremacist and all this crap because she believed what was on the mainstream Mockingbird media. And
I apologize, guys. I'm going to have to stop every few seconds and address the things that he says. I can't let him get away with propaganda. So I'll step back so that you can hear it in its entirety, but I am going to address things as he says them. He just mentioned the Mockingbird media. Operation Mockingbird was... So this is how it works. They take real cases, real things that really happened, and they blow them out of proportion. When I say they, I'm talking about QAnoners, QAnon extremists, right? These QAnon people take things, completely out of proportion and twist it and bastardize it and make a huge mess out of it. Now, Operation Mockingbird was real, but everything beyond that, everything that comes along with what he believes, is not real. So he has a whole bunch of beliefs about, the media. Well, first of all, Operation Mockingbird was this thing where the CIA, or I think the CIA, or maybe the FBI, somebody, was trying to control the media, or they're trying to manipulate what the newspapers said, basically, about them, or about various different things. It was an experiment, just like the MK Ultra. They experimented with mind control techniques back in the day too, and it didn't really come to anything, so they gave up on it. Operation Mockingbird existing forever ago. I don't even know how long ago. What, was it in the 70s, 80s, 90s? Forever ago now. Operation Mockingbird existing all the way back then is not the same as, these groups attempting to control the narrative in newspapers now. And there's no evidence that the CIA or the FBI are interfering with media to try to force them to whatever. Like that, you know, he wants to conflate things and make it out as though these things are happening because, you know, there was some experimentation or they might have happened in the past. But he's discarding all existing evidence in the process. Like, here's the problem with this whole thing. God, dude, this game is really hard. Here's the problem. This guy can say something, and what this guy says in 5 seconds takes me 5 minutes to debunk. That's the issue. That's why, you know, propaganda is so insidious. It's like, I think, Sam Harris said this a while back? I'm not a fan of his, but he said this, like, not too long ago. He won't debate Alex Jones because Alex Jones can put, you know, he can set, like, 5 little fires in 30 seconds, and it's taking Sam Harris, like, 10 minutes to put them all out. That's the idea.
Premise and all this crap because she believed what was on the mainstream.
So let's just step back, listen to that in its context.
Nigeria, that was like their nurse or their doctor that was.
So he's talking about the nurse or whatever at the jail who is dealing with him going on a hunger strike. And he's saying that he faced real racism from her, right? Because she called him a white supremacist or something.
Examining me while I was fasting for 11 days because they weren't feeding me organic. She thought I was a racist and a white supremacist and all this crap because she believed what was on the mainstream Mockingbird media.
You catch that? Mockingbird media? The mainstream Mockingbird media?
And when I told her that I was not racist, that I was not white supremacist whatsoever, that I've actually, you know, dated all sorts of women of all sorts of races, I have all sorts of friends of all sorts of races. And
wow, you don't... Okay. You know what? I actually heard something very similar from somebody back in the day. You know, why not? Let's just take a quick gander here, shall we? Back in the 1950s, there was a black family that moved into this neighborhood, right? Or they were attempting to move into this neighborhood, and there was massive pushback against this family. Just moving in, just living there. And a rock was thrown through their front window just for living there. Nothing more, nothing less. And these scientists showed up and decided to do like a case study type of thing on this. Asked them how they felt about this family moving in and why they felt that way, right? This is just one response to that. Listen to this.
For some, the answer is tremendously complicated, tied up in a maze of past associations and present influences. Sometimes opinions are expressed with grave misgivings and a sense of guilt. The past slips through despite what is said. Being for Myers can be difficult if one...
The Myers were the black family. Being for them can be difficult.
...background rejects this decision.
Some of the people are definitely against integration. And they have told my children that they have to marry.
Right. This is the old technique of the KKK to bring moderates over to their side. Tell them that if integration happens, you have to marry black people. You must. It's a mandate. If you don't, you're racist, and the government is just going to force it anyways. They're doing the same thing with, like, the trans debate right now, you know? If we allow trans people to use the bathroom of their choice, then there's going to be this massive whatever, you know?
And my child doesn't even know what a is, but from the sound, it has scared them, and they have come home just crying. Mommy, do I have to marry Negroes? And my answer in handling all the fears that children come in is that you can marry whomever you wish.
By the way, we both seem to be from below the Mason and Dixon line. Where are you from?
Here's where it gets relevant.
I come from Kentucky.
Had you known any Negroes before you came to Levittown?
Levittown's where they live.
My father had a business in an area where there were several colored people. And I can honestly say one of my best friends was a colored girl.
Remember what he said earlier, right? Jacob Chansley? He was talking about how he's dated black people before and he has black friends, and this is like evidence that he's not racist. Remember? This is the exact same thing people used to say back in the 50s, okay? The same thing, word for word practically. Well, I have black friends, you know? So how can you call me racist if I had black friends? While she's sitting here complaining about the possibility that her kid might be forced to marry a black person. Why do you even care, for that matter?
And as children have no prejudice, we became very close friends. And in her later years, she has become a registered nurse and trying very hard to raise her children in a clean atmosphere. And we have...
Right, because the atmosphere wasn't clean before where she lived. So it's honorable that she came from a black lifestyle, and she's trying her best to walk away from the black lifestyle. That's what she's saying right now.
Talk now, since we both have been married, and it's such a disadvantage to see her children try to grow up healthy in the atmosphere that they have to live in.
So anyways, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. The point is, you can have a black friend all you want. You can date a black person all you want. Doesn't mean you're not racist. Like, really, think about what he's saying here. It's absurd at its face.
Racist and a white supremacist and all this crap because she believed what was on the mainstream Mockingbird media. And when I told her that I was not racist, that I was not white supremacist whatsoever, that I've actually, dated all sorts of women of all sorts of races, I've had all sorts of friends of all sorts of races, and I said,
it's irrelevant.
I've even dated several black women. She said, I can't believe a black woman would ever date you. And
wow, nice impression there.
I was like, oh my God, this woman is like being openly racist, because
that's not racist. That's just being disgusted at the fact, or disgusted at the idea that anybody would date somebody who is so very clearly racist. Like, I'm sorry, man. I know you don't like that. That's just what it is. You, like, whether you're racist or not, you have bought into a framework that furthers white supremacy. Whether you believe this stuff or not, you are furthering the goals of the KKK back from the time when we just watched. It's the same framework. And you know how I know that? You know how I know it's effectively the exact same thing? Because I covered an interview with a Grand Wizard of the KKK from 1982, and he's saying the exact same things that the Republican Party, that the far right is saying right now. Word for word. Like, even talking about affirmative action and the whole 9 yards. It's uncanny. The Republican Party of today is the KKK of yesterday. And if you doubt me, just go to my main channel and look up KKK interview. It'll pop right up. I covered the whole thing.
the role.
So let's step back. Again, we're going to keep stepping back and get all of the context here. I have to stop every couple of minutes here.
And she said, I can't believe a black woman would ever date you. And I was like, oh my God, you know, like this woman is like being openly racist, you know.
No, she wasn't judging you based on the color of your skin. She was judging you based on the fact that you were furthering the goals of extremism and white supremacy and of the KKK. You were furthering the goals of the KKK. The things that they said are exactly the same.
Because if the roles were reversed and she were standing in the doorway while a white nurse told a black guy, I can't believe a white woman would ever date you, she would be appalled. You know, she doesn't know what my ethnic background is. She doesn't know I got Native American blood in me. She doesn't know, you know what I'm saying? She has no idea, but she's judging me by...
Well, see, I have Native American blood in me too, but I'm white passing. For all intents and purposes, I am white in this country because I get all of the... because I don't get any of the baggage that comes along with being from a minority group in the United States. Of course, I'm an atheist, and I've been open about that in the past, and that has been a challenge. A lot of people don't like the fact that I'm atheist, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. The real problems that I face are nowhere near the same types of problems or the same level as the problems as minority groups face in the U.S.
And the color of my skin. There was also a guy, a guard over there that wore a Black Lives Matter mask. So he was taunting the Trump supporters and, you know.
Oh, how terrible to wear a Black Lives Matter mask, huh? How messed up is that?
Like harassing them and, you know, messing with them and stuff.
Wait, harassing and messing with him? How?
I didn't know you had a Native American in you.
Yeah, that's something that I found out somewhat recently, actually, when I talked to my grandmother of my father, who I never met my actual father, except for like once when I was 30.
Yeah, that sucks for him. I'm sorry. That can't be a fun situation to deal with. Does not justify you trying to coup the U.S. government.
But my grandmother on that side, she told me that we have Cheyenne blood in us.
For sure. Have you been able to make any friends in there?
Oh no, dude. No offense to anybody in here, but you know, jail is not the place to make friends.
I don't know. I mean, there are some pretty good friends that come out of jail. I mean, they obviously need to get their life together. It can be a real like mess sometimes, like what's happening in their lives at any given moment. But I don't know. You can make friends.
I just figure like you might want to play card games or like, you know, spitball and figure out some way to pass the time.
Right. I assume that he's in a pod, right? Like I described earlier. I figure he's in a pod with a bunch of other people. And when they open the doors for, I don't know, was it 20 or is it 4 hours or 2 hours a day? He gave me two different answers. When they open those doors, what do you do with people? Do you hang out with them? Do you play cards or do you what?
Oh, dude, I can't get it. No. That's the thing. I can't play card games with anybody because I'm in a cell 22 hours a day. And when I come out of my cell, I'm the only one out of my cell.
Oh, wow, dude. That really sucks. So that's like high security, sounds like. High security federal prison. This is no joke, it sounds like. I'm sorry, man. That sucks for you. I feel for you. But next time, don't contribute to a coup attempt on the U.S. government, and you won't have to worry about it, right?
So you got sentenced.
Step back, listen again.
Oh, dude, I can't get it. No. That's the thing. I can't play card games with anybody because I'm in a cell 22 hours a day. And when I come out of my cell, I'm the only one out of my cell.
So those are maximum security, like precautions. This is the kind of thing that's not really done unless the person did something really, really bad. They're in a really bad prison. That sucks for them. I'm sorry. But like I said, don't commit those types of crimes in the future. You don't have to worry about it, right?
You got sentenced to 41 months. How do you feel about that sentence?
You know, I don't think it's fair. If that's what you mean. I think that they thought...
Again, he's out now, so it's not like he's... I don't know. He didn't serve his whole sentence. I have no idea. I think it was good behavior. No clue how he got out early like that. Like, that's really kind of mind-blowing to me. Like, you're supposed to serve, I think, 85% of your sentence if you're in the federal system at a minimum. If you're in another system, like a state system, it varies between... You can serve like 40% of your sentence and get out if you want. If you're good. If you don't cause problems for anybody. But not that it doesn't work that way in the federal system. So that kind of blows me away that he got out the way he did.
Had to be made, and I don't...
Sorry, let's step back again.
I don't think it's fair, if that's what you mean. I think that they thought an example had to be made, and I don't think they anticipated that example being a double-edged sword, where, you know, they tried to make an example out of me, but in the process they made it clear to the American people that the justice system is not fair or balanced.
Oh, give me a break, dude. Yeah, it is. No, actually, the fact that you were charged with these crimes in the first place does, in fact, show that there is some level of justice in the world. It's honestly disgusting that he didn't get more time. But you know what? I'm glad that anybody got time for January 6th. You know, Charles Manson convinced, 9 people to murder some guy or some kid, right? It was Roman Polanski's wife and son, right, who were murdered by Charles Manson's little group, his little cult or whatever. He convinced them to murder a woman and a child, 9 people, and he went to jail for it. Isn't that weird? Weird to me that Charles Manson goes to jail for convincing somebody else to do something bad, but somehow Trump gets out of it. Bizarre.
He tried to make an example out of me, but in the process they made it clear to the American people that the justice system is not fair or balanced.
Absurd.
What do you mean by that?
That, there was a guy that threatened to shoot.
These are really good questions. This guy knows how to give an interview. Like, I know that I know very little about him. His name's Andrew Callahan. He had some kind of scandal a while back. I don't know if he's like, I don't know if he did it. I don't know if he didn't do it. I have no clue. I know nothing about it. But I have to say, he is pretty good at interviewing. Never talked to the dude before.
That, there was a guy that threatened to shoot Pelosi in the head, and he brought 2 guns and a bunch of ammo, and he got 28 months. I never threatened to hurt anybody. I never vandalized any property.
Well, he did put a pretty threatening, note on the House floor. I think it was. It said "Justice is coming" or something like that.
Hurt anybody? I didn't assault anybody. I didn't steal anything. WTF, mate?
Right.
Well, I feel like there's an argument that some people got lower sentences than they deserved. But nobody got a higher sentence than they deserved. I'm glad anybody got sentenced. Yeah, okay. So some dude got 28 months. He got like 40-something months, right? Like 5 years or something like that. Maybe that guy should have got... There's an argument that that dude who threatened Pelosi should have gotten 10 years, 15, 20 years. But there is no argument that you should have gotten less. I'm sorry.
So why do you think they picked you to make an example out of?
God, because he's a martyr, and he wants to have this persecution complex. It's absurd. The reason I say that Andrew Callahan is a really good interviewer is because he doesn't take any position. He just asks open-ended questions. When I was in school for substance abuse counseling, I had a whole class on how to lead groups and stuff, and part of that was asking open-ended questions and how to frame them. This is actually more challenging than you would think.
WTF, mate?
Right. So why do you think they picked you to make an example out of?
Because there's no yes or no to this. This is type of question that has to be answered with like a long form, something that's well thought out, right? That's what makes it open-ended, and being able to come up with open-ended questions on the spot like that is really, it's more challenging than one would think. So props to the interviewer. Again, I don't know anything about him or whatever, but he does know how to do an interview at least.
Right. So why do you think they picked you to make an example out of?
Because I think that I became a symbol, not just so much of January 6th, but because I became a symbol for freedom, a face for freedom.
Absolutely. And the Mockingbird media doesn't want it doesn't want freedom, right? Freedom for the sheeple. Doesn't like the sheeple. It's sick of sheeple, right? Is that what you're going to say?
Of sorts. And, I stood out the most, to say the least. And I think I energized a lot of people, not just in the United States, but all over the world, to stand up for their freedoms as well.
How do you feel about the nickname QAnon Shaman?
God, this dude is absolutely unglued from reality.
Well, it's not anything I ever asked for. It's one that was given to me by Alex Jones.
Alex Jones gave you that nickname?
He's the one that called me the QAnon Shaman for the very first time when
I didn't actually know that.
I did an interview with him. I think it was on the 8th of January.
Damn. So it just caught on from there?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not QAnon Shaman, but you are a shaman, right? And you also...
I do.
And you also believe in QAnon, so he is a shaman that is a QAnoner.
I practice shamanism, yes, sir.
Can you tell me more about what shamanism means to you?
the shaman is like a ancient monk or priest, psychologist, pharmacologist, historian, storyteller, artist, astronomer, tattoo artist, psychic, all of these things wrapped into one person. And so for me, I was always interested and intrigued by Native American culture. And like I told you, my grandmother said that I have Cheyenne in my blood. And she actually said that one of our ancestors was one of the few survivors on the Trail of Tears.
Yeah, that's something, first of all, right here, this is actually fascinating to me because this seems to me to be evidence that you don't have to be religious to be a part of QAnon. You don't have to be Christian, at least. It pushes you toward Christianity, and a lot of the adherents are Christian, but it's a political cult, first and foremost, not a religious cult. A lot of people make the mistake of believing that it's like a religious cult, effectively. And, yeah, I'm sorry. The other thing, the Trail of Tears, holy shit, guys, the Trail of Tears, that's a full-blown genocide. You guys know that? A lot of people may not even be aware. That was, God, so disturbing and evil and disgusting. Like, holy shit. Some of the shit that people did on the Trail of Tears is horrific. As bad as Nazi Germany. No joke. And I feel like the Trail of Tears is not taken seriously enough. Not as seriously as it should be. Because, oh my God, is bad. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's keep listening here. One of the sole survivors of the Trail of Tears, he says. Okay.
Cheyenne in my blood, and she actually said that one of our ancestors was one of the few survivors on the Trail of Tears. So I always knew that the medicine man or the shaman knew something special, and I always wanted to know what that was for myself. And so,
well, that's the thing. The medicine man didn't know something special.
So something very deep in me called me to the shamanic path. And so I searched for the truth of my existence and of enlightenment on the shamanic path. And I always knew I was destined to find it one day.
Right. When did
the shaman was pretending all along. He didn't have any secret knowledge, in all seriousness.
Did you first get introduced to shamanic practice?
So I officially started and deliberately started my shamanic path on November 2nd, 2012, when I got my first tattoos, and those were on my feet. And now I have over 100 hours worth of tattoos, and all of them were earned or like through personal growth or some sort of like a symbol for an accomplishment.
That's actually pretty cool. When I accomplished something, like getting a new job or whatever, having a kid or whatever, I always got a new tattoo to symbolize it. And my wife and I are supposed to get matching tattoos soon. We've found some place. We haven't picked out a good tattoo yet. I want something simple. I think she wants something complex. So it's kind of a challenge finding, the right thing. But that is on the list. I definitely want to do that. But every time I do something, I always get like some kind of a special tattoo. And like the birth of my kid, this wasn't when she was born, but I got her name tattooed on me, just as an example. I also have Unbreakable on my arm right here. It may be mirrored because of the camera, but that was to symbolize, well, it started out with cursed. You can't see it. It's kind of hard to show, but it says cursed here, and it's a 666. That was to symbolize that I kept, like, just getting fucked. Like, things just kept going wrong in my life. Terribly wrong. And, like, losing my friends and my family and everything else. And then I came to find it was an intentional attempt to fuck my life up by Jehovah's Witnesses. That was the goal. They wanted to pull the rug out from under me so that I served as an example to others in the congregation. You try to leave this religion, we are going to pull the rug out from under you, so be prepared for that. And that's when I got the Unbreakable tattoo. The saying that goes along with the unbreakable tattoo is, I'll break before I bend, I'll die before I break. I've been through a lot, and a lot of the stuff I've been through has been manufactured intentionally by the people in the congregation or whatever. And I'm still standing afterward. I'm still here, and I'm still talking about it, whether they like that fact or not. So, anyways, I signify big life events in the same way.
Or all have some sort of a deep meaning, or were used for to symbolize the overcoming of pain or an obstacle in my life. Like, for example, the bricks on my arm, the sleeves, I got those after my dad committed suicide. It took 36 hours to complete. And the whole...
Oh, wow, that's really pretty. I don't know if you guys can see, he said the bricks on his arm was after his dad died. That's really sad. I'm sorry to hear that. It's a tough situation to deal with. But, yeah, I think that's a really, really healthy way to deal with that type of situation, is to get the tattoos to kind of sweat the pain out. I like that. That's good.
I got those after my dad committed suicide. It took 36 hours to complete. And the whole time I was, using the physical pain to deal with the mental and emotional pain I was in.
I like that. That's actually really awesome.
Yeah, the top of the foot is supposed to be one of the most painful places to get tattooed because of all the nerve endings.
Yeah,
right?
That's why I chose it, was because the whole idea with, shamanism is you go through ordeals, and after you go through the ordeal, you you have this out of body experience, whether it be by overcoming pain or, going through some sort of long ordeal process,
Okay, that sounds like pseudoscience, but I can appreciate it for sure. I can appreciate wanting to feel the pain and kind of trying to sweat the pain out. Face it head on. Don't let it get a hold over you. Embrace it, right? Totally. I'm absolutely there. Tattoos are painful if you've never had one. Very painful sometimes. But that's part of the experience, It wouldn't be the same if you, tried to take a painkiller for it or something. It's just not the same situation. It's not the same experience.
Like some people, know about the Sundance ceremony and stuff like that. That's an ordeal. And a lot of these things end up causing out-of-body experiences or spiritual experiences of reality.
Mm-hmm. I guess, psychologically and emotionally, what prompted you to get those first tattoos on your feet?
Well, I wanted to know, I always ask myself, why are these tribal people all over the world, why are they tattooing themselves? Why are they undergoing hours and hours and hours of excruciating pain? What's the point? Why?
So at what age did you kind of become interested in Native American culture?
Well, none of this has to be part of Native American culture. All this can just be because you like tattoos.
Always been interested. Yeah. I grew up in Arizona, so I've always been interested in it. It's always been a part of my life,
But was there a particular moment, maybe in your youth, where you were oh, this is something that I think is super cool and I want to learn more about?
Kind of. I just whenever I saw the native dudes with the big feather headdresses, when I heard about peyote and hallucinogens.
Have you ever experimented with peyote or anything like that before?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I guess he takes a lot of hallucinogens. Okay.
All shamans use these tools as a way of transcending the physical body and gaining a larger view of reality. And so the shaman is an expert of these spiritual or these mental tools.
Yeah, shaman is an expert of absolutely nothing, FYI. Just want to make that clear. He's an expert of conning people. I'm sorry. I just can't buy, these religious ideas that this guy is selling. I just can't buy it.
They allow people to gain a broader view of the world, of their spiritual connection to all things, and of the nature of God and life itself.
When did you first experiment with the medicine?
That was, I think, in 2014, 2015, something like that. That was the first time I ever tried peyote. But I had tried other, things like sacred mushrooms and, things like that beforehand.
What insights do you feel like you gained from peyote?
Well, I can honestly tell you
I mean, it's almost like a religious experience to do that kind of thing, but truthfully, you don't learn anything. It's just an interesting experience to do this stuff. Not that I would ever encourage it. I absolutely would not. Drug use in any form is bad. Okay? This is coming from somebody who has a lot of experience, too much experience with drug use. Not good. Don't do it.
I'll put it this way. The only way that I can really explain the things that I understand or the insights that I've gained, it wasn't just through peyote. It was through things like cannabis, through mushroom experiences, through all sorts of other, transcendental experiences, including things like meditation and trance states, breathing rhythms, even things
Okay, a lot of this doesn't make any sense. It's just garbled nonsense, but okay.
like fasting, tattoos, all of that stuff. And the ultimate conclusion I came to is that the body is a tool for the soul of God, almost like the body is like a microscope and a telescope. And
I'm sorry, what was that? Like, this guy... Here's the thing about QAnon, okay? He's the QAnon Shaman. He's most famous for being affiliated with QAnon, but the things that he's saying right now are not QAnon beliefs necessarily. Here's how it works. QAnon is a set of beliefs, not just like one belief system that you strictly adhere to necessarily. It's kind of, it's like it varies in extremism, varies in its levels of buy-in. The idea here is that this guy has bought into the most fundamental pieces, like the idea that there's like a deep state that's pulling strings behind the scenes, the idea that there's going to be a storm, a great storm, that Donald Trump is going to take control of the government again and everything else. FYI, January 6th was supposed to be the storm. It's like their apocalyptic event. Not even apocalyptic. This storm is just supposed to be like the event where everything is set right, all of the evil people are arrested, and all this other stuff is done by the white hats in the military. Like, all the things that I'm talking about right now, there are different levels of buy-in to QAnon, and there are even different denominations of QAnon that are kind of split up in who they follow as their leader. Like, there's Ramana Didulo. She's this Canadian cult leader with 75,000 followers or so, somewhere in there, which is huge, by the way. And these people believe that she's like a space alien called an Arcturian. You know that whole thing about lizard people running the world? She claims, yeah, there are lizard people, and I'm one of them, except I'm a good lizard person. There's Ramana Didulo. Then there's Negative 48. Those are the people that believe that JFK Jr. is going to return any 5 minutes now. And he's going to run with Trump as his vice president. Negative 48. I mean, there are a bunch of different buy-ins, a bunch of different levels and denominations and ideals and all this other stuff. It is a political cult, not a religious cult, which is super fascinating to me. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody says mass arrests and executions. Yeah, that's something I forgot to mention. They believe that the storm will include mass arrests and public executions. People are going to be publicly executed. Seriously. Insane.
Microscope and a telescope, and the soul of God is the observer, able to examine the infinitely large or the infinitely small. And so in a way, the body is like an instrument that can be tuned in a number of different ways to tune the mind and the body to the frequencies of God's omnipresent consciousness. You know, every culture has a different name for it.
You can hear the music growing slowly in the background. It's more for entertainment value than news reporting.
You know, every culture has a different name for it. Nirvana to the Buddhist, Brahma to the Hindus, collective unconscious to the...
Okay, I don't think he knows what he's talking about here. This sounds completely made up.
The materialists. Ultimately, though, I came to discover...
Wait, collective unconscious to the materialists? He's talking about, like, heaven, basically, right? He says that he believes that materialists, quote unquote, I'm assuming he means atheists, right? He says he thinks that the materialists believe in a collective unconscious. What? This guy's got problems. As if we didn't know that already. The guy is sitting in prison for an attempted coup on the U.S. government.
Unconscious to the materialist. Ultimately, though, I came to discover that the light is one and the paths are many, and everything and everyone is interconnected to the same omnipresent collective soul that we.
Okay, that's all a nice idea. Do you have any evidence for it? I will take literally anything.
Call God. And even science has come to say, that everything is made up of energy. We all have these different words.
No, science has not said that. Science has said that there are two things, matter and energy, and they are interchangeable, and you will get the exact same amount of one in trade for the other, a.k.a. E equals mc squared. That's what that means. It doesn't say everything is energy or any of that garbage. It's completely fabricated.
For essentially connected to the same omnipresent collective soul that we call God. And even science has come to say, that everything is made up of energy. We all have these different words for essentially the exact same thing. But ultimately, because I was always seeking God and the truth about the purpose of life, was I able to find it. I didn't really get, quote unquote, involved in politics until 2020.
Did you notice? That's really interesting. Like, now the music stops, and it's kind of, jarring, surprising, unusual, and it kind of pulls you back into the moment, right? It's really interesting how he kind of threw that together. Again, not really a huge fan. I feel like the music, he probably shouldn't have used it. That's just me.
What catalyzed you to get involved in politics?
Well, that is a funny story.
Please, let's hear it. I bet it's hilarious. You're sitting in jail. It's got to be a funny story, right?
Let me start by saying that a fish does not know that it's swimming in water, okay?
I'm sorry? Okay.
And a sane person in an insane society will appear insane. So that being said, everything I'm about to say, I ask people to keep an open mind and an open heart and try and understand that, where I'm coming from is a place that is, from literally thousands of hours of research. And I'm a...
Totally. Thousands of hours of research. He believes that he has some special information because he spent so much time reading about QAnon. Absolutely.
Very skeptical and rational person, and the only way I'm ever going to believe anything is if I've seen it from more than one angle and I've heard it from more than one source. And
sure,
I've dinged the little truth bell inside of my heart. So
dinged the little truth bell. Oh, that doesn't sound very rational to me. You can be gravely mistaken about something and have that little truth bell go off.
I always knew that DC was corrupt. And when I heard about Podesta's leaked emails to the public, I started...
Oh, boy. Okay. Again, we're back to the conspiracy stuff. I'm going to have to explain some of this. If you are unfamiliar with this, John Podesta was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, I think. And he had his emails stolen by Russia. It was proven that it was Russia that hacked her email system through spear phishing. Not just Podesta's, but Hillary's too. Here's how they ended up stealing. Like, this isn't super relevant, but it's interesting. This is through a spear phishing campaign. So basically, they knew that Podesta, they had like Podesta's email address, the hackers did, right? So they send Podesta, her campaign manager, an email that looks exactly like Apple or Google or whatever. It looks exactly like their sign-in page. And they come up with a good reason to go to the sign-in page, like, oh, we need you to correct this problem or something, right? Just sign in and fix this. And you click the link. I mean, the email looks precisely like Gmail or like... I don't know, Apple or whatever. In every way, it looks exactly like it. So you click the link in this email, it's precisely like, Apple or whatever, and it takes you to a website that looks exactly like Apple's website in every way. So he clicks the link, he goes to the little login thing, and he types his information in. And it's a fake website, of course. It's one that was set up to look exactly that way, look real when it's not. So when he sets up his, so when he types his password in, username and password, he's giving his information to Apple or Google or whoever. And he may not even realize that this happened. It'll just forward him to, the correct place, Apple's website or whatever. It'll just forward him to that place, and he'll have to type it in again. And worst case, he's just like, oh, that's kind of weird. I have to type my information in again. Strange. So anyways, they did a spear phishing attack on him. They targeted him. They knew who they were looking for. They sent him an email like that. And then when they got his information, they logged into his email account, and they got all of his emails from Hillary Clinton and, from all kinds of people. And this sparked something known as Pizzagate. Pizzagate was this whole thing where Anthony Podesta talked about pizza, getting pizza at Comet Ping Pong and Pizza Parlor or whatever it is. Talked about getting pizza with somebody. And the people who eventually turned into QAnoners, this is pre-QAnon, 2017, 2016. The people who eventually turned into QAnoners ran with it and claimed that, like, any references to pizza, it was like a big pedo ring, and any references to pizza were talking about little boys, and there was something else that represents little girls. I don't remember. Anyway, haunting, disturbing, fucking weird, all of it. Well, everything took off from that point, and eventually, that was Pizzagate. Eventually, somebody showed up at Comet Ping Pong and Pizza Parlor, whatever it's called, showed up with a gun to save these children that supposedly existed in this place when they simply did not. So, anyways, that's a short history of Pizzagate. That's what he's referencing here. So, and the Podesta emails. So, let's keep listening.
Inside of my heart. So, I always knew that DC was corrupt. And when I heard about Podesta's leaked emails to the public, I started to read them with a mild curiosity.
It's all made up. It's all garbage intended to freak people out.
And then I started to notice a very strange pattern in the emails and many of the other emails that were leaked, and how it involved most of the, like some of the most powerful DC moguls, like, Clintons and the Obamas and Bidens, and how it involved celebrities and international bankers. And the big picture became crystal clear.
The big picture became crystal clear, absolutely. See, this is why people like this should stay away from the internet, honestly. This is bad.
And it was not even a week or two later that the first Q drop appeared. And
was it a week after Pizzagate? I didn't know that. I thought it was. I thought they were a lot more separated than that in time. Weird.
And all the research pointed to Q being the beginning of full disclosure.
No, none of the facts or the research or the whatever. Showed that. None of it. This is like completely made up. This is so sad, dude.
And I came to conclude that Q was involved at the highest levels of the military and the intelligence community.
No, never was.
That Q was involved with things like the deep underground military bases and black budget technologies and stuff like that, above top secret information. And
dude is in it. Neck deep at this point.
And ultimately, Q involved the warring factions of the deep state, what some people have called the alliance versus the cabal.
So fascinating. He's trying to explain QAnon beliefs to him, right? The alliance versus the cabal, the white hat military versus the deep state. It's all completely made up. It's a fabrication of their minds. But it's really interesting to hear them break this down, right? I think.
And that what we were experiencing was kind of like a mind war, and this mind war over the minds of the populations would end up affecting the timelines that we created as a species, almost like hijacking our co-creative abilities, and that would determine the fate of humanity.
Like, this is all garbage, all of it. It's all garbled nonsense. It doesn't even make any sense.
almost like hijacking our co-creative abilities, and that would determine the fate of humanity.
So what do you think the deep state wants for the fate of humanity? If they had their way and every sinister plot they are trying to arrange came true, what would our day-to-day life look like?
What they want is centralized power through corruption. They want to negate the three-branch checks and balances, three-branch government system, and maintain and expand the corrupt government bureaucracy.
So it's interesting that you can tell there's a grain of truth in everything, right? A grain of truth in what he says. There are people out there that like power, that attempt to get more power by paying off politicians and stuff, right? There's a grain of truth in it, but it's he's taking it a step further. It's not just, oh my God, dude. It's not just as simple as people being corrupt. It can't be that basic. There has to be another level to it. There must be. With this dude, it's sad. It has to be people are pulling strings behind the scenes, like puppet masters. George Soros is involved, and all the other people are all involved. It's so sad that this guy can't just come back to reality with the rest of us.
So they basically want no freedom, full totalitarian control. They want control and access to all of our biometric data, all of our medical records, all of our financial records, all of our personal data. They want to know all of it and control all of it.
So here's the claim where it goes completely off the rails. This ambiguous they, this authority out there, this secret group of people, this is called weasel words when someone refers to some ambiguous they like this. The people who want to get all of our data to sell it, he's speculating or postulating, if you will, that they're the same people that are pulling strings with politicians and corrupting them and stuff. He's claiming they're the same people. No evidence of that. There's no evidence of this group that's doing all of this evil stuff behind the scenes. That's really the claim, that there's some group out there that's specifically setting out to do this evil stuff, right? Nonsense. I mean, yeah, there are evil groups, but it's not this big centralized thing, the way that he's making out.
They want to make things like vaccines mandatory. There's no body autonomy, no free choice, chips in your hand type of thing.
Nobody wants chips in your hand.
Think like communist China, except in the United States and all over the world. That is what the deep state is looking to do. And somebody may say, well, that won't happen in the United States. And
No, it's absurd. Everything he's saying is absurd. Here's an interesting question. You tell me the answer to this. There's a line with free speech, right? At some point, you can't disallow somebody from doing something. At some point. But has that point passed with this guy? Should it be legal for a judge to order this guy to stay away from social media? I mean, what he did directly led to, what would you call, a coup on the U.S. government. Is it time for for judges to tell him not to get on social media anymore? I don't know. Tell me what you think.
And somebody may say, well, that won't happen in the United States. And I would say to those people, well, how far are we from 2 weeks to stop the spread? I think that COVID is proof that the corruption that we're dealing with is not just in the United States, but that it's global. I mean,
well, it's interesting. He says, how far away are we from 2 weeks to stop the spread? There was a campaign in the beginning of COVID when, everybody discovered what was happening. There was a campaign to try to stop the spread. And that campaign was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That's what it was, flatten the curve, right? Just because COVID, exploded after that does not mean that stopping the spread didn't work, or our efforts during that time didn't, contribute to fewer deaths. It absolutely did. He's taking a little grain of truth for everything, and he's running with it, turning it into something completely different than what it actually is. Honestly sad.
Like, vaccines are being used as an excuse to do all sorts of things. I think it's only a matter of time before they're used to round up and detain enemies of the New World Order or of the...
Really, only a matter of time. He said, 2 years ago at this point, more than 2 years ago now. Just embarrassing. This never happened. How do you answer to that?
I think it's only a matter of time before they're used to round up and detain enemies of the New World Order or of the deep state. This virus is only killing less than 1% of the population. So I think that the ultimate end goal is to have a two-tiered slavery system where you have free-range slaves that are in the cities and they're being used as like workhorses to create a large generation of tax revenue for these black budget operations.
Black budget operations. I think what he's talking about is stuff that you're not supposed to know about, like Black Ops stuff. I assume that's what he's referring to.
And these people live in the cities. These people are monitored by like the deep underground bases, by these classified technologies. These people in these cities are basically like held hostage by the corrupt deep underground bases. And then there would be the FEMA camps or the concentration camps, which, these things, believe it or not, may already exist. If you look...
No, I don't believe it. Now, this guy, not only does he believe in all of this, but he also believes that there are underground military bases that are like 200 years more advanced than than the upper world, I guess is what you'd call it. Is that what he's referring to right now? I'm not sure.
Concentration camps, which, these things, believe it or not, may already exist. If you look into the way that certain Walmarts have been shut down and converted. The same stuff we're talking about happened in Nazi Germany.
Yeah, so that Walmart thing that he mentioned there, it was another reference to a conspiracy theory where Walmarts are going to be shut down and converted into FEMA camps or like mandatory vaccine, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember this conspiracy theory too well, so I'm not going to talk about it much. But yeah, it's just another conspiracy that he's laying on us. Like everything out of his mouth is a conspiracy. It's crazy.
And converted. The same stuff we're talking about happened in Nazi Germany. It happened in the USSR. It happened and is happening right now in communist China.
So where does Trump fit into this whole thing?
Well, that's a good question.
Not really. It's a basic question, and it's not that complicated. This whole thing is made up, and Trump doesn't fit into it in any way.
This whole idea of Pizzagate and the info that was dropped during Pizzagate was almost like a trial run. And it was conducted to disclose the truth to the public prior to the 2016 election. So the public knew what was really at stake, and people like Hillary Clinton couldn't get in. And the point is that Q was like the next step, I think, in the intel drops. And so after understanding what in the Q community is known as the Q clock, the way that the timestamps and the gap code work with the Q drops and how they all relate to Donald Trump's tweets and how...
Yeah, right now he's going on a whole breakdown of QAnon beliefs. Like, wow, dude, he's going for it. Okay. All of these things that he's saying right now are references to propagandistic beliefs.
Known as the Q clock, the way that the timestamps and the gap code work with the Q drops and how they all relate to Donald Trump's tweets.
Yeah, so he's describing deltas right now. Now, in math, a delta is the distance between two things, basically, right? Well, in QAnon world, the delta is the amount of time between when Q talks about something and when Donald Trump talks about something. It's kind of like proof. They call it Q proofs. It's absolute nonsense. It's not proof of anything. You know what it's proof of? It's proof that whoever was posting as Q, it depends on when. Paul Ferber in the very beginning and some of his friends like Tracy Beans Diaz. And after that, after it moved to 8chan, it was Ron and Jim Watkins. But it's proof that whoever was posting his Q at that moment knew Trump's schedule, knew when he would post about things, and knew what he would, probably picked up on the sources that he went to, knew that Trump watched stuff like I don't know, justthenews.com or so, Breitbart, some other extremist stuff. So they know if Breitbart posted about some specific thing that morning, they know Trump's probably going to be talking about it that evening. That's how the Q drops got deltas, or convinced people that they had some special connection to Trump. These deltas were used as evidence that Donald Trump and Q were communicating with each other. There's no actual evidence of that. Anyway, that's what he's talking about right now, the deltas.
And so after understanding what in the Q community is known as the Q clock, the way that the timestamps and the gap code work with the Q drops and how they all relate to Donald Trump's tweets, and how there's a lot of the same verbiage in the tweets as well as in the drops, and they all, a lot of the time, they occur around the same exact time.
Good job. They've managed to copy Donald Trump's style. Wow. Super impressive, right?
And the way that certain messages are put out, in time or in lockstep with his tweets and all that stuff, they were using numbers to communicate a much larger and broader message that if you put the puzzle pieces together, it made perfect sense. It seemed to me that Trump was a part of something a lot bigger. That Trump being at the helm in the presidency, he was a part of this faction within the military-industrial complex, within the quote-unquote deep state, the good guys that were trying to free humanity, and they were trying to get rid of this cabal that is essentially full of Marxists, fascists, and New World Order types that are trying to enslave the population. So,
dude, this is so sad. Like, he's just going off the rails into an extremist QAnon rant right now. It is so sad.